You know the story they tell us about big tech, that companies like Google, Amazon, and Facebook are just different, that they are running on some kind of digital magic, these unstoppable forces that have cracked a code none of the rest of us can even see. But what if that whole story, the one we hear everywhere, is more of a myth than reality? Okay, let's get into it.
This quote from Jonathan A. Need just hits the nail on the head. He calls this whole thing the platform delusion. Basically, a bunch of buzzwords we use that make these companies sound, well, almost supernatural. It's a really powerful story for sure, but it hides a much more interesting and way more complicated truth about how these businesses actually work. So, what are these magic words? This vocabulary of invincibility. You know them, you've heard them, and let's be honest, you've probably even used them yourself. They sound so powerful, right? You just slap the label network effects on a startup, and boom, suddenly it seems unbeatable. You call a market winner take all, and it's like the conversation is over. These aren't just descriptions, they're conversation stoppers. They're meant to make you think a business is an automatic champion, no more questions needed.
And this is where we really get to the heart of it. It is time to pull back the curtain on this so-called magic formula.
What if these terms are just a smokescreen, hiding businesses that are actually a lot more fragile than we think? Or what if their real advantages come from somewhere else entirely, somewhere a lot more, well, traditional?
Okay, let's start with the biggest buzzword of them all, network effects. This is the one you hear constantly. It's held up as the ultimate, the absolute, unconquerable advantage in business. And the idea is simple, right? It's powerful. The very first telephone, totally useless. But the billionth telephone, well, that connected the entire world. More users equals more value. Makes total sense. But, and this is the crucial part the delusion misses, not all network effects are created equal. Some are incredibly strong, and some, well, they're surprisingly weak. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this comparison. Think about something like Ancestry.com. Every single person who adds their family tree makes the service way more valuable for every other person on there. It just keeps compounding. That is a powerful network effect. Now compare that to a ride-sharing app. Okay, once you can get a car in 3 to 5 minutes, does adding the 10,000th driver in your city really make your life that much better? Nah, not really. The value kind of hits a ceiling. That's a weak network effect.
And what's cool is that we don't have to guess about this stuff. There's actually a framework for figuring it out. The real power of a network comes down to real-world things. Like, is the user's identity a big deal? How easy is it for them to use a competitor's app at the same time? Asking these kinds of questions is how you separate a real business fortress from just a temporary lead.
Okay, so that's myth number 1 busted. If the buzzwords can't be trusted, what about the companies themselves? This brings us to the next big myth, the idea that all the tech giants, the FAANG companies, are basically playing the same game. I mean, we group them together all the time, right? We invest in them as a group. We talk about them as this one single thing. But if you actually lift the hood and look at how they make money, the picture gets way, way more complicated. Just look at this. I mean, the data really doesn't lie. This chart of profit margins tells an incredible story. You've got Facebook and Google way, way up there just printing money with these insane profit margins. But then you look down at the bottom, and you see Amazon and Netflix. Their margins look a lot more like a regular, tough, competitive business. If they were all running on the same magic formula, wouldn't these bars look a lot more alike? The reality is their businesses are just fundamentally different. Facebook is an advertising machine. Amazon's big profit engine, that's cloud computing. And Netflix is a media production company that runs on subscriptions. Calling them all platforms is kind of like calling a shark, a tuna, and a dolphin all just fish. Sure, it's technically true, but you miss all the critical differences that actually matter.
So if it's not some single magic buzzword, and the companies aren't all the same, then where does that real, lasting competitive advantage actually come from in the digital age?
Well, the answer isn't one simple thing. Real, sustainable power comes from a combination of forces. Some of them feel super new and digital, and some of them, well, they would look pretty familiar to a railroad baron from 100 years ago. And they basically fall into 2 big buckets, advantages on the supply side and advantages on the demand side. In this slide, this lays it all out perfectly. A truly durable business is like a fortress built from a bunch of different interlocking pieces. On the supply side, you've got the classic stuff, like being huge and having your own special tech. And then on the demand side, you have what's called customer captivity, which, yeah, includes network effects, but also stuff like making it a huge pain to switch to a competitor. So here's the absolute key. It's a system. Being the biggest player gives you lower costs. Those savings let you invest in better technology. That awesome tech creates a product that's really hard for customers to leave, which locks in your demand. See? Each piece makes the other stronger. That interlocking system is the real moat around the business, not some flimsy buzzword.
All right, so let's bring it all home. We've gone through the myths, but why does any of this really matter? Why is it so critical for us to see past this platform delusion?
Because the stakes are just huge. I mean, if you're an investor, you have to know if a company's advantage is real or if it's just hype. If you work in tech, you want to join a company that's built on a rock-solid foundation, not a house of cards. And if you're trying to compete, you can't fight a ghost. You have to know where your rivals are actually strong and where they're weak.
And get this, here's the final twist, and probably the most surprising idea of all. Just going digital doesn't automatically make a business stronger. In fact, sometimes, by making it so easy for customers to compare prices and switch, the internet can actually increase competition and make businesses less durable than the old-school companies they replaced.
So here's the takeaway. The next time you hear a pitch for the Airbnb of dog walking, or hear someone raving about a company's unstoppable network effects, just pause. Take a second. Arm yourself with this way of thinking. Ask the right questions. Is that a strong network effect or a weak one? Where are the real supply-side advantages? How hard is it really for a customer to switch? Seeing past the delusion isn't just about being smarter. It's your single greatest advantage.